Good morning, everyone, and I welcome you to the final day of this session, MATLAB for Engineers workshop. And I thank each one of you for being here and registering to the course and following up to now. And today we're gonna see the data science concept using the MATLAB, where I gonna curate the things the starting from the data science, what is the data science and where to get started, and how what actually mean by data science and how can we incorporate this data science using the MATLAB, and why how we need to progress this data science, what actually data science actually mean. The motto of this session is we end up saying data science is no more concept of computer science, but it's a concept of mathematics. And I agree, each one of you have a mathematical background here more than me. So I realize that yeah, each one can understand this concept data science because it's no more coding, and MATLAB supports us without coding. We directly have a toolbox which imports the data and deploys the model. So completely incorporated in a toolbox, we'll just look into it. Before getting into the session, I want to introduce myself. This is Sai Varun, and I'm managing director of Physisolve Private Limited. Along with that, I'm an artificial intelligence engineer of an United States organization where I curate the things and develop the products, AI products from scratch. So I from the scratch, and I mean I develop the data myself and I deploy the model myself. So getting started. So what are the stages in data science? So what generally definition of data science actually mean? Data science has several norms. The one who prepares the data is also known as a data scientist. The one who processes the data is also known as a data scientist. The one who visualizes the data is also known as a data scientist. So this is one of the norms of data science, where we are going to do data handling, then data processing, and the model exploration. And we have another more feature, that is deployment of the model, which I gonna do some introduction here, but not into the deep. But what is the data handling? What is the data preprocessing, and what model exploration does? So generally, data handling is something we have the data, curated data. Generally, what data science is, the misuse word is data is available public. It's not real thing. Generally, to learn the things, data is made available public. But if you want to build a product from scratch, you must be the one who has to prepare the data from scratch. And I know many people who call themselves as a data scientist but don't know how to prepare the data. The prior knowledge about the data should be there, because I know I want my model to perform in particular manner. I know how my data should be there. So I need to prepare my data. So how can I prepare my data is from an instruments. What I mean is from sensors, or we have some public files, maybe databases, and then the files. So what actually mean from sensors is we have several transducers which generates electric impulses, and we want to store those signals and process it for data visualization. Then in that case we use sensors, and then databases. We have a large data. Actually, I use databases in my organization where I curate the things with 183 GB data. So that's huge. I can't have this 183 GB data into my local system. So I use it in database. Everything is in cloud. I just access it from the cloud and visualize and use my algorithms to analyze it. So what are these files? Files are the minute things, and the basic things to get started with the data science or the machine learning or the deep learning. So what are these files actually? Files can be anything. Images, it can be images, it can be text file, it can be CSV file, it can be Excel sheet as well. So the most prominently Excel sheet is used as an input data for model exploration or data exploration in data visualization using the MATLAB. Not only MATLAB, even in any programming language, when we are going for data science, we usually prefer Excel sheet. So these are the kinds, and these are the 5 kinds which we're gonna deal, and we'll see how to import these files. Generally, exploration in the sense, how do you access these files? You have these files, but how do you get into the picture? How do you import these files into the MATLAB and use them and visualize them? So I'll just show you how to do in the MATLAB. So I'll go for a live script. So data. First of all, I will show you how to import the text file. call it data txt. Load is a syntax which imports a data file. So I have a file text data .txt inside my working directory. So I'm just importing it. Then I will print the size of the data. What is it? So I will just say m comma n equals to size of data txt. I will try to run this. So you can see that rows is 97 and columns is 2. So actually before this is the syntax the command which we're gonna run to import the text data load. It's simple. So let's see how to import the CSV file as well, and the another thing, the Excel sheet as well. So I'll just break it here, and this is import CSV file. So here data, I will call it as data CSV. Then load CSV data. These data I already have in my system, my working directory, that as well. So I just copy this and paste it here. We'll see how. So okay, here I did not. See, you can see that rows is 11, columns is 3. So the data which is the data in the CSV data.csv has been loaded into my MATLAB. There is an alternative way without the command as well. I will show you in the few seconds how to do without the. Actually, it may be curated yesterday as well. We're using this Fuzzy toolbox while we are using Fuzzy toolbox, and we'll see how to import Excel sheet. The command is XLS read. We have like 29 rows and 4 columns. Even the Excel sheet has been loaded. So we'll go to the workspace. So this is the workspace. So we have the loaded data over here: data CSV, data text, data XLX. Let's see what the data, what is the data it consists. So data CSV consists of 11,3. So this is the data which I have loaded. So it imports as the same way the CSV file is there. And let me show you data txt file. So this is the txt file I have, and then Excel sheet as well. So this is the way you import the data, and there is another way you can import the data. So you can just let me show this. You can find a import data tool, import data tool like toolbox here. If you can click it here, it asks to select the file path. It takes time. Let me show. So it asks me to select the file path which you want to import. Let me say text data I'm importing. So I say open. So this is a non-technical guy who wants to import the data. He can just do this. So you can directly get access to the data, and you can say import selections, and you can eliminate. You can import one of these two. You can import complete file. So I'm importing complete file. I can just click import selection. I have the text data. So actually you can use this import data, or you can use these commands load data, which I have shown in the live script. You can use the load option to load the text file, CSV file, and then XLS read file. So this is what actually the data importing deals with. So now we need to export the model. You have done some numerical, you have an algorithm behind it, but how do you save it? So we must know. So actually, so this is the load file implies for .txt, .mat, .csv files. So how to write files? We'll see that. Uh, Let me take a variable I is equals to I of 5. So the identity matrix, and I want to save this into a CSV file. I can write say CSV write file name. I'll say test CSV dot CSV from a variable name I. Okay. Now, before we do this, we just need to F open. So my mat sorry, my laptop doesn't have the right feature here. I can say test data, okay, test CSV dot CSV, and I give write operation here. So it's created. Then I will write CSV. So it's fine. It works fine. So let's see if actually did it write the um, did it write the file or not. Let me check it. So test CSV. Yeah, I have it here. I'm just opening it. So I have the identity matrix saved here. So this is the syntax which we gonna use to save any file. So after my algorithm has been performed, I how to save my data. If I could not save my data, is kind of useless. Whatever the algorithm analysis I'm doing. Actually, this is not only made for data science. When we are doing for data exploration or some research kind of thing, and we have exploited so many algorithms, but you don't you need to show the data, and you have to refer the data for future cases. You can save the data in this manner. And MATLAB supports different save options. I'll show you. I will say fopen test take XLS. So what this W specifies here is a write command. I'm saying my MATLAB to do write operation there. Then I will write XLS write. Okay. Okay, it's showing some error. Let's okay, fopen. So let's see if it has written some file or not. XLS. So the you can just go for help command xls right what it refers. But actually I don't have write operation in my system, so it's throwing an error. But you can have some glimpse of how it does it. It's just a command is the same xls write of file name comma variable. So it just does this. But here in my case I don't have a write operation, so it's throwing an error. And so let me go forward, and we have another format where MATLAB can save. So I can save. I can say test.mat, and I can say I. Even I need to give this a string format. So test.mat. What does this test.mat dot refers is .mat refers to a matrix format which only MATLAB saves the file, saves the workspace. And if you want complete workspace to be saved, you can just save. You can give some name. I'll give some test2.mat. I'm gonna save complete workspace. So let's see what this test.mat save and test2.mat save. So this is test.mat. Load.test.mat. It okay. Let me clear everything so you can get clear intuition. So I have I have nothing in the workspace. Now I'm loading test.mat. So what does test.mat should return is it should import identity matrix. Let's say load test.mat. So I'll get the identity matrix. So this says that if I would be able to save the data which I have worked in the workspace, and then I can import it anytime. And then let me show you how I'll clear it. I'll clear the workspace again, and I'll show you how I can import complete workspace. I saved earlier. Test2.mat refers to complete workspace. So I get the answer as well. So this is the complete workspace. You can just save of test2.mat. It saves complete workspace. And if you want particular variable, you have to follow the syntax. And later, if you want to load the data, you can just use the load command. So this all deals with the data handling. So next norm, actually, the data handling is nothing but importing the data what you have curated earlier. But how do you preprocess the data? So what the data preprocessing refers to is generally data preprocessing is highly ignored kind of thing in data science because they use the normalized data which is available in public. But the actual data, when you take from the sensor, my sensor works for 5 seconds, but stops for 5 seconds and runs for another 5 seconds. It cannot get some data. Say, let me explain here. So generally, I have an array, but I failed to save this. I don't have data here, but again I have the data 6, 7, 8. So generally, what the data scientists refer to is when we have data like this, they completely remove this particular value. So they just reconstruct the arrays 1, 2, 3, 4, then 6, 7, 8. So generally, data scientist job is to retrain the data and visualize the data. But what he is doing intentionally is remove the data. That is next to data exploitation. You're not realizing that you're spoiling the data you have. So what I recommend is instead of this, you can just have some interpolation. So what is missing of interpolation in the sense? Missing data. You have some missing data. You have to fill the missing data with some interpolated data. So generally you have the sequence 10 sequences. You have missed one sequence. You have to fill that one sequence based on this remaining nine sequences. So generally we have different interpolation techniques using the mathematics. Like we have linear interpolation, spline interpolation, median interpolation, and we can just fill previous value, or we can just fill with next value. And we have something like Newton interpolation as well, which I studied in numerical analysis. I want to give some intuition what this actually refers to interpolation. So generally I have a data, say 1, 1, 1. I don't have the data here. Then I have again 1, 1, 1. So generally I can't give this data to model because it throws an error because it has a undefined undefined value over here, so it says error because I don't have a particular value over here. So I need to fill this value uh, based on these remaining values. How can I do that? So the first thing I want to say is median. So generally we have the data, the remaining data, say 1, 1, and except this data, again I have 1, comma 1, comma 1. So the median of this would refer to again 1. So I can just replace this value with 1. So I have the interpolate data here. So this is one kind of interpolation, that is median. Let me show you, sorry, let me show you the other approach. Mean. So I have 3, 1 comma 1 comma 1, and I have another 3, 1 comma 1 comma 1. So I will mean this data. So mean by 6 by 6. So again it would return 1. I will just fill this data with 1 again. So it is one kind of interpolation, that is mean. And we have another so many kinds of I can just fill with this previous value. I can put this one into this and say interpolation is done. And because it just interpolation is something approximating that unknown variable, unknown value with a known value. So I can say previous thing, and I can just say the next value to be inside this. But approximation. But how do you do this approximation depends upon your requirement. So I will show you let me show this. So when I have, okay, when I have a unit step function, say shifted from 5, so let's say this is 5, and I have a unit step function like this. But when I shared this file, or when I did the data exploration or data retrieval, I have missed few impulses. Say I have the data in this fashion. So I need to fill this data using some of the techniques like mean, median, or something. I can't use mean because everything value is 0 here, and everything value is 1 here. When I do mean, I will get around 0 0.2, 0 0.1 something, and it's an errorless. And if I take median, it would be good better. And if we see if we do some linear interpolation, it would be better. So what is a linear interpolation refers to? Generally, we have one. So say this is a graph. We know 2 points. Say this is a 1 point, and say this is 2 point, and we have a missing data somewhere here. So this is 1 point we know. This is second point we know. We don't know the value over here. Say this is unknown value. We need to find what is this unknown value. We'll just draw a linear line joining these 2 points, say this one. So we can just directly interpolate this data as by joining a line. I can say this is the data. So this is the linear interpolation. The similarly we can just need to do in the unit step function, which I specified earlier. But where does this linear interpolation fail? So generally we have a data in this fashion. Say you have 1 point over here, you have another point here, you have another point here, you have another point here. So when you try to, if you say this is your point, so remember this is known points and this is unknown points. I want to know the point over here, point over here, the point over here. These are the unknown values. I want to know them. But when you try to linearly interpolate, it would do this one or this one or like this fashion. It cannot cover all these points. So linear interpolation fails in these scenarios. So we must need to use the spline interpolation. Spline interpolation is very much similar to the polynomial interpolation. What does the polynomial interpolation refers to is we just do a curve instead of a straight line. Say this is the interpolated graph. We can get the unknown value from here. So this would be more reliable than the linear interpolation. So the generally interpolation is nothing but the approximation of data with the known values, and it's up to you how do you use it. If you go for simplification, you can just fill it with the previous value or next value. But if you want more accurate interpolation, you need to use the linear interpolation if the data is linear. If the data is not non-linear, you must use the spline interpolation, this one. And if you have more curated data and more approximation like exponential graph or something, we must use the Gaussian interpolation. we'll see, we need not worry about this interpolation, the map behind the interpolation, because MATLAB has an inbuilt algorithms and functions to do interpolate the data. Let me show you this. So I will, okay. So as specified in the example, I will just take data or say function is equals to, I will just take the unit step function which I specified earlier, 1 to 5, and then ones of 1 to 95. So I have completely 100 sequence, 100 impulses, where first 5 impulses are zeros and next 95 impulses are ones. So this actually means the interpolation. So before going further, I will just want to plot this fun how it should, so let me show you fun. Okay, so I can figure out saying that it has drawn some unit step function, but it's not clear for visualization. So from the knowledge of visualization, I'm changing the y limits. It has the y limits from 0 to 1, but I want to visualize from -2 +2. See, let's see how it goes. So the visualization, you can just write y lim. Y lim refers to y limits and x lim refers to x limits. So I will say -2 space 2, saying that you put the y limits to -2 comma 2 and x limits to x limits from, I'll say 0 to 30. It would be enough for my visualization. It's up to you, like you can use anything. I will run again. So we have the unit step function over here. Up to 0 to 5 it's 0, and from next impulses we have the 1. So let's miss some data, like voluntarily I want to skip some data, say fun of, I'll just skip the data. I mean, like, I'll remove the data from 15 to 20. So fun of 15 to 20 equals to NaN. What is NaN refers to is not a number. So not a number. So what is mean is you're skipping the data or it's misusing the data. So generally when you're importing a data, if you have a blank in your CSV file or something, MATLAB would import it as a name, not a number. It's saying it did not recognize that, so it says it's not a number. So let's see how it would plot the data. I will just copy this again. So you must realize by this way. So if it's not a number, the plotting function does not throw error, but it misses the plotting those particular sequences. From 15 to 20, we have missed the data. But I cannot go for a model exploration because I have missed the data. I need to do some interpolation kind of thing over here. So one kind of interpolation I can do is the previous value. I can just replace the unknown value with the previous value. So how we can do that is, I'll say interpolate data. I'll say interp a variable. I can say fill missing. So what is this filling missing refers to is whatever the data is missed, you can just fill with some value. I will say function. Then I will say linear interpolation or previous value. First of all, I would like to show you how the previous refers to. Again, I will just plot the graph. Syntax error. So you can identify this. This is the previously data, which is not interpolated data, where we have the missing data here. But this is the data after the interpolation, because you use the previous function. So if it checks here, the data is missing. So it sees the previous value. So it's 1. So it will say here 1. Again, it goes for the second data, next data, and it says there's no data over here. It goes to the previous one and says 1 again. So in this fashion, it fills the linear data. So where is this? So we have one method, the previous interpolation. What are the disadvantages of previous interpolation? We're gonna see here. So let me take another example. Say you have some signal. I will say cos of Before the signal, I'll just need to specify this. I'll say 0 to 0 0.001 to pi, and signal is equals to cos of 2 pi into t. So first of all, I'll plot the signal. So this is my signal. I will voluntarily remove some data. So I'll say we'll do something different from earlier case. Like I missed the sequences here, but what we will do here is if signal for I equals to 1 to length of signal. So what I'm writing here is if I just iterate the loop from 0 to 30, fine. And I'm saying if the signal of I is greater than 0.2, mean 0.2, 0.6. So anything data between these points, you just I mean like replace it with the not a number. So I'm just voluntarily replacing this with a not a number. Let's see how the signal is there, like after removing the data. So you can see this a lot of interpolation has been missed because of this function. So we will try to fill this data with the interpolation function, but we will use the function previous what we have used earlier, and we'll see what is the disadvantages of using the previous interpolation. And plot. So when you try to interpolate with the previous value, you don't get the accurate answer because it just because sine function is nothing is not dependent on the previous value. It has some significance sine thing. So what I want to conclude is you can't use the previous interpolation every time. The interpolated graph is not exact as the our input graph. Whatever we want is this one, but we end up getting this fashion. Let us use the different interpolation kinds and see what fits the best. And another type of interpolation is have next. So let's do that. So what does the next refers to? So the similar thing, because you can't depend on the next variable, and I will say linear interpolation. Let's see how it works. So linear interpolation is really accurate because it really approximated each value. And I just want to conclude that you can't use previous for every case. You can't use the linear interpolation in every case. But according to your data, curated data, you must choose what type of interpolation you want to use. So I'm using linear interpolation. I can say it's working fine. And we will see with spline interpolation as well. So spline interpolation as well, which I have specified earlier. Even spline interpolation is doing better. You can go with spline interpolation or linear interpolation. And we have some different interpolation techniques like move median, move mean. So these are the types of interpolation that MATLAB supports: linear, spline, previous, next, constant, move median, move mean, move median. So what does this constant refers to? Let's see. So when I'm saying constant, I'm saying like whatever the unknown value is there, you replace with some constant. I'll say 10. No, okay, I'll say 1. Yes. So whatever the unknown value is there, it replaces with 1. See, so I'm saying like whatever the missing data is there, you just replace it with 1. So I have some erroneous functions here. So the constant even works like you. I conclude here like if you say constant, it replaces the unknown value with 1. So actually in this case it's not useful. But when you have curated data and like if this constant interpolation helps me a better in for my organization, because when I have a data, I have missed the interpolation. So this is the easiest manner where I can replace with 1 directly. And we have move median as well. Move median, move mean. I will just say 4. So what does this 4 refers to? So generally, you have a data this fashion, say 1 comma 1 comma 1 comma 1, and you miss this, and you have 1 comma 1 comma 1, and you want to replace this step. But what does this move mean? Does is it has a window and just does the mean here. Say 4. It takes these 4 values and does the mean here and replaces it with mean of these 4 values, that is 1. Again, it slides the window. It says do this and says the mean. It excludes the unknown value. So 3, it says 1. Again, it's does this. Again, we get 1. So this sliding process is performed till we get to the end. And after getting every mean, and it does the final mean to these values and replace this unknown value with this mean. And the similarly move median also does the same thing. It has a sliding window and it just slides the window and it finds the median, and the complete values we have, we just find the median of the complete array and we'll replace this unknown value with that median. Let's see how move mean is helping us. So I just say 4. So what if this 4 specifies the window size? How do you want to skip the set? How do you want to do the mean of the sequences? So this is the mean function. This is not accurately correct, but approximation can be done. So this is the move mean, and we'll see the move median as well. So this is the move median value. So what I say is okay. So okay, this is the move median. What I say is, if you it depends upon your data. Finally, data is the previous thing. So the model's performance would be like 10% contributing to the data, but data is the previous thing which is going to contribute completely for your data science job. So when we don't have the correct data, then we are our complete approaches would be different. If we even have the highly performance model, it would not help because you don't have the exact data. So this interpolation helps us to go for better data and better exploration as well. So this is all about the data exploration. I mean data pre-processing which we have. That is one is interpolation of missing data. But so generally this data science is used in electronics or hardware components. These hardware components are very sensitive and they're prone, like they throw an error, not an error, they give an irregular responses. So for that irregular responses, we need something like smoothing data. So what I mean by irregular responses is, so generally I need to get an data, say this is a signal I need to get. So this is the signal which I need to get, but I end up getting. So this is the same, like actually it curated to get the sine wave, but due to the disturbances and hardware sensitivity, it returns me some graph kind of this. But if I try to train a model on this thing, I would end up getting an erroneous model and my model would not perform better. So what I mean here is you just need to check, you just need to smooth the data, at least approximate the data. Say there is an wrong here. So we just need to smooth the data, at least some kind of thing which relates completely to the input function. How do we do that smoothing data? So I will show you. Smoothing data is something different. Say, okay, smoothing data can be done in one dimensional or two dimensional. I am assuming my data is one dimensional here, no? So say I have data 1 comma 1 comma 1, and I have something spike over here. I say 23, and I have again 1 comma 1 comma 1. So this 23 is an error list. What? How should I remove it? Because it was 23 because my hardware did an error there. I need to replace this 23 with nearly equals to 1, or I must replace this once nearly equals to 23. There are different approaches, like one is median approach, one is mean approach, and one is Gaussian approximation. So I will show you how we can do with the mean approach. So what we do is we'll take the neighborhood points of 23. We'll say take one and this one, and we'll mean these two ones. So 1 plus 1 plus by 2. So we end up getting 1. So this is the way how we are smoothing our data. And the similarly, median is also similar. We have the neighboring points 1 comma 1. We take 1 comma 1, and we'll take the median of 1 comma 1. That is 1 again. So this is a one approach where we can do the smoothing. So generally, our data, I assume it to be one dimensional, but it need not be one dimensional. It can be two dimensional or nth dimensional. So when I was working preliminarily for image processing, this smoothing of data is really important characteristic before we proceed for a model exploration. So generally, I can say I have an image. Say this is an image. Sorry for these comedy pictures, but still. This complete picture can be translated to an array. So this is what the image processing specifies is. Any image can be converted to an array. So don't consider this an image analysis, but consider as mathematics, array analysis, or matrix analysis. So generally, we have a spike here. Say we have all data 1, but we have an irregular responses here 23, and we need to smooth this 23. How we do this? So it is very much similar to previously what I have spoken about the one dimensional array. You just take the neighborhood points. You take neighborhood points, this one and one, and you take all these points, like I would end up getting 3, 6, 8. So 8, right? Yeah, 8 points. So 8 into 1 by 8. I would end up getting 1. So this is the way you're gonna do the two-dimensional array. So even the dimensions increases, you must need to take the neighborhood points and the mean or the median or the Gaussian approximation. This is the smoothing of data. So now let's see how MATLAB. So we need not worry about this data as well, because MATLAB has an inbuilt functions. This is something I want to explain for the mathematical intuition. Let's see how the MATLAB is doing its job in smoothing the data. Signal. Let me take directly from 1 to 100, and then signal is lots of 5 to 0.5 into t. What this specifies is a frequency 2 pi omega t. Omega is a frequency, and then I will just add a noise over there. It can be added like 0.05 into random number. Then I will just add to amplitude as well. This is the noise to the frequency, and now I'm adding noise to the amplitude. That can be done by random number 1, 100. What I'm specifying is generate a random number having a length of 100. So I'll just plot this signal. So this is our data. So this is our structured data. We need to smooth this data using our MATLAB infill functions. So what I will say, resig is equals to smooth data. Smooth data is a direct function we have in MATLAB where we can just smooth the data we have. And I will say the input data is signal, sig, and then the method. I will say mean, move mean. We should have terminated this. Then we'll plot this resig. So you can see like it did better approximation. So like we have a big spike over here, it could reduce to here. So generally smoothing is performed over this data to reconstruct here. So generally when I explore or create a generate a model over this data, it would return me an error. But this data is completely reliable and useful for data exploration. We have move median as well. We'll see move median how it does. And we need to specify the window size, let's say 4. So this is very really accurate, better than the previous thing. It could approximate the data really accurate. And we have Gaussian as well. We'll see Gaussian how it performs. So this is how Gaussian function performs. So again, it depends upon your data, what type of smoothing function you want to use, Gaussian or median or mean. So this is all about the pre-processing of data. You can't directly provide the input data from your hardware to the model because the data input data which you have is completely erroneous, and we need to pre-process data according to like interpolation of missing data or the smoothing of irregular spikes in this fashion. So that ends our concept of data pre-processing. And here comes the actual thing, the machine learning model exploration. So generally model, what this a model refers to is it's a black box kind of thing where you have an input data and you just want to have an output data. So for this, you can have a multiple algorithms. Like you can do the same thing using a fuzzy logic, like Raju sir has explained yesterday in the last two sessions. And we can do the same thing using a neural networks, most complex thing. And you can do this thing with machine learning. So this session would really focus on the machine learning thing. So we'll see how the model exploration, how machine learning is useful in real life. Say, I'll give one a practical intuition. I run an organization where I have where I pay everyone employee according to their experience. Say, if this is experience, this is their salary. Say, if employee is having one year experience, I would pay him 10,000, and if he's having 1.1 years experience, I would pay 10.05k. In the similar fashion, I would do two, and I would pay him some 11k or something. And for five years experience, I would pay some 12k. So what I'm saying is, if I want to code to a computer, say you just need to return me a salary for the experience. So how I can code how a layman can code without the knowledge of machine learning is, he says if experience is equals to sorry, double equals to say 1, then salary equals to 10k, he codes. Then again for 1.4, so he does else if experience equals to 1.1, salary equals to 10.05k. But till how long you gonna code like this? So if I want, so this is the data which I have given 1.125. But if I have say something, what if I have a 10 years experience, what is the salary you're gonna pay me? Definitely my code is going to break because I don't have an inbuilt function, or I don't have the algorithm to check the experience to 10 years. It says it exceeds our limits. So this machine learning model, what it says, even if it is 0.1 years experience, it has to predict. What I mean is, if from the data you have given input, it must predict the unknown values. Okay, let me show. So generally, what I mean is, if you have some like the same experience data, you know that you have data for 1 year's experience, 1.5 years experience, 2 years experience, 2.5 years experience, 3 years experience. The machine learning model, what it does is it should have the ability to predict 5 years experience, 10 years experience, or the any experience it has. The big here, so this is the way we want the machine learning model to do. Else, we just need to hard code it. Like if experience equals to 1, experience equals to 1.5, experience equals to 2, then there is no like there is no advantage of the technology, or there is no advantage of mathematics. So everything is mathematics really, because machine learning is completely mathematics. And I really appreciate everyone who is working as a math professionals, because they are the one who taught me, and I really thank Ravi sir for that. Generally, a machine learning model, so you can think of this data. This is the model. Say I have data. So generally, I have data, say the experiences versus salary, and I have a model which trains itself and generates an equation. What this equation refers to, I will be doing in the next slide. So how this is the block diagram of a machine learning model. We have a data, we have an data. Our data is experience versus salary, and we have given to the model. It just generates an equation. In case of this, we'll see what is this model and what is the equation. So it generates an equation. We'll give the another input. Say we have the experience of 1 to 5 years, and we want to know the salary of 10 years. We will give 10 years to the input for this equation. It says the salary. So what this equation specifies is the relation between the experience salary. So this is very much similar. I would like to refer the elementary mathematics which I did. So generally, when I have a given data like this, say 0 to 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So when I'm doing my elementary mathematics, when I have data like this and they ask me to predict value of 1.5. So what is the value of y for x? X equals to 1.5. So how I would approach this problem is, I just used to plot the data. Say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is 0, 1, 2, 3. I used to plot the data. Say 0 to 0, 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3. I used to draw a straight line joining these points. Then if 1.5, it would be somewhere here, and I used to draw a straight line to the graph, and I used to say, this is my y value at x equals to 1.5. This is way how I used to predict the graph. And directly you can say that y is equals to x from general intuition. But we have something complex. Say you have 0, you have 1 again, 4, 9. So this is actually y is equals to x square graph. So we would end up getting something this fashion. We can predict some value, and we can say this data. But we have something very much complex, say some 3x power 9 plus 11x power 6, some 12x power 7. So that doesn't actually, using the graphical method you can do, but how do you find this equation? Generally, you can't plot the graph and put there will be so much manual error when you draw a graph and put 1.5 here and just find the value over there. So we just need to frame this equation, and we need to substitute the x value, say 1.5, and it must return y at x equals to 1.5. So what this machine learning model or this regression model does is finding this equation from the data what we have. We will what else? We'll experiment the data what we have got as input, and we'll just frame the equation. We'll frame an equation. You can think of a You can just think machine learning model as you have data, it would return me an equation or expression. So we'll see how this machine learning model is returning an expression from the data we have given. Uh, Actually, we'll go for simplest cases like the I'll show you. Okay. So we will go for the linear regression in this fashion. So this is the data set we have. Experience versus salary we have in this fashion, and when we have the data we have this fashion. Let me show you here. So this is a graph. This is the data I have, an approximate data. I want to predict somewhere here or somewhere. I just need to a linear separation or some equation. What I'm specifying is, so if I have a straight line converging these points, say this one, I can easily predict this point or this point. So I'm just how to realize this thing. We have an algorithm called gradient descent. And I have studied this gradient descent generally when I'm exploring the machine learning model. But later I realized that this gradient descent was like extension from the numerical analysis. Generally, in numerical analysis, we have several optimization algorithms. Gradient descent is one of the optimization algorithm which was approved and used very brilliantly because it did not give any false output. So we just I will also just go with the gradient descent algorithm, and I will explain it. So like we have an x, y, say 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and we want to frame an equation from this x comma y. How we gonna do using a machine learning model? So this is complete mathematics. We're gonna see MATLAB where we don't need any mathematics. We just need the data. So as of now, you can say like I don't know what this is equation. So I can say this is y is equals to x line, but a layman cannot say this y is equals to x line. Or if we have the complex data, even I cannot say what the graph it refers to. So I will say generally a normal line equation can be referred to as y equals to mx plus c. But what I mean here, we need to configure this m and c according to the x and y we have from here. So how we gonna do M and C? So for intuition purpose and for mathematical purpose, I am taking theta 0 plus theta 1 x. It can be anything. So I am taking M as theta 1 and C as theta 0. So what this theta says as parameters. We say it as parameters. So let's start how to do this. So, okay, sorry, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So y is equals to theta 0 plus theta 1 x. So initially we need to give this theta 0 and theta 1 values. I will initialize theta 0 comma theta 1 is equals to 0 comma 0. So my equation says this 0 plus 0 int x. So the first thing, I don't have space here. Okay. I'll put y cap because I don't want you to confuse this y from this y. So y cap is equals to, for the first case, I mean I'll subscript as y cap 1 is equals to 0 plus 0 into x1. So what is x1 is 0 again. So my y cap would return as 0. So it returns 0. The original true value is also 0. So what must be the loss? Generally, how loss function is framed. So there are different loss function. We can say we have a true error, absolute error, root mean square error, and several things. But there is a cost function, loss function, which is used for optimization algorithms very precisely. How you give it is I equals to 1 to m y cap of I minus yi whole square. So what this y cap of I refers to is the output you got from this equation, and this is the original prediction, original from the data, and this is square. We are squaring the loss function. So like if you have 1.1, it would be a less error, but 1.1 square would return a, I mean like it is a huge error. And this square is also is also used to avoid these negative numbers, negative losses. So we have some error 0.5. We can't have a negative error anywhere, so we are just squaring this error. So it just say 0 minus 0.5 whole square is also equals to is some positive number. So this is the loss function, but there's something normalization we need to do to help this algorithm for in optimization. So what I'm going to do is I would divide this loss function using 1 by 2m. What this m refers to is number of samples I have. So in this case it is 4m. Why it is 2, I will explain you in the when I'm explaining the gradient descent algorithm, I'll explain why I have kept 2. Why I have kept by 1 by m is for normalization. Generally we want every value to be 0 to 1, so we do 1 by m here. So we'll just proceed for cost function. So I will represent this cost function as j. We have two parameters, theta 0 comma theta 1, and we specify this as 1 by 2m summation yi whole square. So when you draw a graph for this cost function, it would 2D graph. I mean say only one parameter. Don't consider theta 1. If you have only theta 0, if you try to draw a plot of j of theta with respect to theta 0, it would return me a graph in this fashion. What it refers is, so on x-axis it is theta 0, on y-axis it is theta j of theta 0. When I increase theta 0, say, I mean like the theta 0 must be optimum, so the loss function is minimum. Actually, this theta 0, if in initial cases the cost may be high, I mean like loss is high, and even if theta 0 is high, the loss is high, but we need to choose the minimum point of theta 0 where the loss function is minimum. So how can we do this? We can't just iterate to theta 0 from random values and say this is the optimum value we get. We need an optimized approach. We need an algorithm where it can just optimize where it can return just theta 0 and say j of theta, your loss function is minimum at this point. So even if you consider theta 1 over here and j of theta 1 here, it would return the same thing. And more precisely, you can draw a 2D plot over here, and you can just visualize how the j of theta is approximating with respect to theta 0 and theta 1. That is known as contour plots, where you plot a function output with respect to two variables. So you would get something. So you would end up getting some counterplot like this, where this is theta 0 and this is theta 1, and the y-axis would return the j of theta 0 comma theta 1. So this is a 2D plot. Actually, someone is having an issue with the previous thing. Actually, you might be confused because you have seen multiple machine learning algorithms. Actually, the last plot I have drawn is for single dimension. You must recognize this j of theta 0 and j of theta naught. What I'm saying is, when you increase the theta naught, the cost function increases, and when I decrease the theta naught, it decreases the cost. But this is the plot where it says, when I increase theta 0 and theta 1, it would affect the j of theta 0 comma theta 1. However, you need not worry about this graph. You just the thing you need to worry is about the algorithm, how you want to optimize this theta 0 and theta 1 to get the minimum point. I can say the minimum point is somewhere here, and we need to get the theta 0 value and theta 1 value, so such that the j of theta naught is the minimum point. So we'll go for algorithm directly. The algorithm name is gradient descent. Gradient descent. How this function performs is, so generally in the mathematics and calculus, when we want for minimum of a function, we'll just differentiate with we'll do one I mean say one time differentiation and equals to is 0, and whatever the value it returns, we'll say that is the minimum point of this. It returns the minimum point of this. So we have the cost function. Say I completely say so j of theta 0 comma theta 1 is j theta. I would completely want to represent this j of theta 0 comma theta 1 as j theta. So generally, if you want to minimize this function, we need to differentiate this with respect to some variable. So we'll speak what variable it is. Generally, we have two variables here, theta 0 and theta 1. We want both this theta 0 and theta 1 to be optimized. So we have to differentiate the cost function with respect to theta 0 one time and theta 1 one time. So what I'm saying is dou j by dou theta 0 and dou j by dou theta 1. This is one with respect to theta 0, and this is with respect to theta 1. So when you do this, you will get the optimum value of theta 0. When you do this, you will get the optimum value of theta 1. But how do you do that? And this is not the approximation exactly, but we have an algorithm for that. We have a general expression for that. Say theta 0 j equals to theta 0 j minus alpha into dou j by dou theta j. So what this function refers is j. Say these are the approximation iterations what you want to go. It generally starts with 0. So this is the initial condition, and this is the minimum optimum point you have got. But what is this? Alpha is nothing but a learning rate. We call it as a learning rate. What is mean by learning rate? I just want to show it in the graph expression. So we have our curated data over here. So we just started our equation from here. I'll just change the color. Okay. We have say y is equals to 0x plus 0c. So in the sense we have the line equation over here, 0x plus 0.6 refers to. So when you perform a gradient descent algorithm, it would go for one iteration. It would say say this is the first iteration, and in the further approximation it would go for a little bit here and here, and it would end up getting approximating this approach, and it would say this is the line where the minimum losses approach. So what the loss is, it just finds the error between these 2 points and the prediction, and say that, and that is known as the loss. And when this line clearly fits this data, we say it is we say machine learning is done, because we end up getting a straight line across the data. That is our final point where we need the data. So why do we need this alpha? Alpha is the learning rate, how we are specifying the data. I mean, say we just started with y is equals to 0x plus c. Slowly, after iterative approximation, we are just moving this line gradually towards the key points, our curated data. But at what rate you are changing this line equations specified by alpha? This is an hyperparameter. What is this hyperparameter is? It cannot be very small, say 0.00000001. It can't be, because it takes so much time to really approximate the good value. It can't be big value, say 100. It will, what it does is it skips directly and says this is the data and I can't converge anymore. So there must be a trade-off between for alpha to choose not very low value, not very high value. You must choose an optimum value. Generally, I prefer alpha is equal to 0.01 because it does better approximation. But if your model is failing to converge, you can reduce it. But and I don't recommend it to increase it, because increasing is for time latency, and I don't really consider this point. And I will explain the gradient descent algorithm. So just recall, like I have mentioned previously, this is a j of theta graph, and this is theta graph. It can be theta 0 or theta 1. with respect to one dimensional, or if you're going for three dimensional, it can be both theta 0 comma theta 1. So as of now I'm considering only one dimensional. Please make sure that. And you, so generally the theta 0, say this is our starting point. We will get the I just change it. We have the cost, I mean, like, we have loss over here. After a few iterations, we end up getting, we reduce the cost, and this is how our model performs. It comes here, and if you go for further iterations, it would may go up here, but my model says, no, you're increasing cost function, just come back again. So it will come back again and it will settle here. So until the iterations you have given, it just approximates here. It is going to iterate over here and here. It's going to shift here as well as and here as well. So, and the final point would be the converging point. And we need to note this converging point of theta. Say we have two values, theta 0 comma theta 1, and we'll frame an equation based on this theta 0 and theta 1. How we will frame this equation? Simpler. Y is equals to theta 0 plus theta 1 into x. We can specify the x and we can get the y output. This is how machine learning model performs linearly. This is complete about linear regression. And toward this process, I can just make a statement that linear regression is nothing but curve fitting algorithm. So what we are doing is, we have a data over here. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, we have the data over here. We are fitting the curve linearly. Say we started from here, and we are generally gradually fitting the curve, and say if the curve is fitting properly, we say this is the final fit. But what is the difference between the curve fitting and a linear regression or a regression algorithm or a machine learning algorithm is, in curve fitting, you have only one dimension. Say you have x, you have y, and you generally iterate approximately and say this is the final fit. But when it comes to machine learning algorithm, it can be n-dimensional. If you have a number of parameters as well, it will be still able to do the curve fitting. So optimization, and so curve fitting algorithms generally, like machine learning algorithm, is inspired from the curve fitting algorithm, and finally we got this approach. I want to show you how we can do this whole machine learning algorithm using MATLAB. So the block diagram I can say is, you have data. This is MATLAB. You'll directly get the output. You can just give an input and say input. This is data. So this is the complete diagram, pictogram of how MATLAB helpful in machine learning algorithms. You need not worry about the cost function. You need not worry about the parameters, initialization or the learning parameter. You can get started with random values or something. The only thing MATLAB requires is the data. So I recommend you to prepare the data yourself, or just, for learning purposes, you can refer some open source public datasets. And be very sure that they're preprocessed very well, because missing data affects the toolbox. And the smoothing of data is also required. So I made complete pipeline ready for our inference purposes. So linear regression, I will just go to this one. So before this, I want to show you how the actual data is there. So, generally, this is the public data set I have collected from internet. What it specifies is fuel consumption and CO2 emissions. So generally, what the fuel consumption data refers to is, you have this is the data which a vehicle consumes in liters, and this is the emissions. If a vehicle consumes 9.9 liters of petrol or a fuel, it would emit 199, I don't know, milligrams per liter maybe. So 199 milligrams per liter CO2 it would release. So we just need to find the relation between this output and input, and say And if I have given you, say, if my vehicle consumes 20 liters of fuel, what would be the CO2 emissions? So generally, we will use this data set and generate a machine learning model how we can predict the fuel consumption. So the first thing you have to be very sure that you have to refer to the apps function. Apps. So generally we have multiple apps. I have installed many apps for my organization because of this is a licensed version as well. And I recommend you to go for licensed version because there would be no issue in installing the apps. Hello, Krishna sir.
Okay, Varun,
Yeah, Varun,
you
you
can
are,
continue.
you are
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sorry, I have internet. Yeah, actually, this is the data we will be going to use, and we'll see how it can predict our CO2 emissions according to our fuel consumption. So generally, we'll go with MATLAB, and I recommend yeah, you can check over here. We will having a regression learner app over here, and if you don't have one, you can just you can go to install app over here. Sorry, you can go for get more apps here. You will open a dialog box saying add-on explorer, and you can just type a regression learner over here. Say this is statistics and machine learning toolbox. It is installed in my system. Make sure if you don't have, you will be getting an install option over here. You can install it directly. So I'll just directly go to. So before we are going proceeding further, let me import all the data which I have required. I'm clearing that workspace and I'll clear the command. Sorry, command window as well. I'll say data equals to load XFS. Okay. Fuel. So I have the data here, and I just need to run this regression learner. And this is how our regression learner looks like. Generally, we need to create a session here, new session, and be sure that you only run a single model once because MATLAB doesn't support yet for multiple machine learning models to run at a time. So it asks for me what is X and what is Y. response is known as y and predictor is known as x. So generally, so let it be. And this is something validation. Regarding the validation, I recommend you to go and check out what actually validation is, because validation, it plays a major role when you in the data science field. What validation is? You train a model, but how do you validate? How can you approximately say that my model is doing good? So I'm saying that what I'm saying is, if I have data, say 10 responses, and I'm saying like out of 10 responses, remove my 4 responses and put it for validation. I will train the model for 6 responses, and I'll check my model for remaining 4 responses. We'll just import the data, start session. There is no coding involved here, just import the data and deploy the model. It takes time to import the model data. So here is our data explanation. So generally, these are the emission, and this is the this is the fuel consumption. This is the emission. We have complete data plotted over here. We just need to train the model and just need to fit the curve approximately. So we have multiple models over here. I just spoke about linear regression, but we have multiple regression models. We'll train all the models. So MATLAB uses parallel tool. So what this parallel tool refers to is parallel computing. Generally, our system is octa-core or quad-core. So it uses all cores to run this program. I'll train. So you can see here, all the models are being loaded, getting loaded. So the training is in progress, and after training, we would end up getting the accuracy or square error. I'm audible, right?
Yes, Varun, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. So you can see that error is returning as 15.295. So whatever the error is returning, it is as root mean square error. So completely, there are 19 models being trained by MATLAB. Generally, if you want to implement these 19 models practically, it would take more than 3 days, because the models and data exploration, we call that complete analysis as exploratory data analysis. We need to take the data, we need to pre-process data according to our model, and we just need to train. But MATLAB has an inbuilt function which does everything by itself and returns us a model. So let's see and from each model, and we'll get a glimpse of each thing. So the first thing is linear regression, which I spoke. It fits the line across the data according to the data. So if I want something response at 220 or something, it just says the point over here, and it says this is a prediction. And you can go for this is interactions linear. There are different kinds of things, and you can just observe here is model 1.2, which says as graph or fitting for third thing, and this is robust linear. This is stepwise linear regression. So there are multiple things which it fits the curve perfectly. So it highlights the model which is giving less error, 13.052. It automatically says this is the least square error. So use this as a model. I can just save this model. I can export model directly. It will just return to the workspace. So I can just rename it. I'm saying this as model, just a model. So model, okay. I can return to my workspace. So I have a model here. It's a structure category. And if I want to create a value, say, I will just say model dot predict function. So what is the value I want to give? I will give 9.9. It would say 207. If my fuel consumption is 9.9, it would say my CO2 emission is 207.794. It's pretty easy because you don't need big programming thing or kind of thing. You can just directly have the data and run it, and you can get the output. And let's try for one more thing, and we'll close this linear regression. I said 20, so it says 385.2278. So I recommend generally if you are getting started with the data science or machine learning, I try to, try to use this regression learner precisely and understand what is doing regression learner. And I highly recommend to understand the math behind this machine learning. I know many people just get started with this data science and leaving the math behind. Mathematics plays a key role. If you understand the math behind the algorithm, you can implement from scratch. So the next, so before getting started, the next classification, I just want to wind up a content made. So linear regression, it allows us to summarize and study relation between two continuous variables. That is what we are doing, X and Y. We have one dependent variable, one independent variable. X is the independent variable and Y is the dependent variable. And this is how we are fitting the data. So I just refer this as Y is equals to MX plus B. And we are changing this M and B variables according to the algorithm. So this is the data set. And this is the steps I have spoken, the error, and this is the loss function. So generally, after the epochs is nothing but the iterations. So generally, when we go for different iterations, the loss function is going to reduce. At the end, we would end up getting a graph in this fashion. So what is the practical use of regression? Why do you need to go for regression if you don't have, if you have curve fitting kind of thing? So practical use of linear regression is very prominent use is stock prediction. We see like stock variations, so we can just fit a line over there, and at different dimensions we can know the stock is going to be like profit or loss, and predict the analysis, and we can just go ahead. This is the practical use of regression. And there are many use of regressions actually. You can define the speed versus distance. And in electronics kind of view, you can, like we have an antenna, and antenna rotates and sees the maximum radiation in the particular direction. So linear regression can predict the direction which can give maximum radiation. So in the civil engineering, we have in civil engineering, we can predict the salinity and the temperature of water or seawater, some kind of thing. And mechanical, because machine learning is an autonomous, it can be implemented in any stream. So the next thing is classification. Just a second, before going for classification, I will set up my Wi-Fi.
Navina?
Yes, sir.
Sir, just a second, sir. I'm just.
Still there, Varun?
Yes, one model
Okay.
classification.
Wait. Just
So my screen is visible, right? Sir?
Yes, Varun, screen is
Yeah,
confirmed.
Yeah. We'll speak something about classification. So generally, what the classification refers is like similar to the regression. We have another algorithm in machine learning called classification. So what classification does is, say example, we have a cancer cell, cancer prediction kind of a problem. Uh, so generally, consider this as a tumor size, and they say this is as danger of death. So when the tumor size is small, there is a very low risk of death, and when the size of tumor is very high, and we can say there is a high risk of death. So when we try to predict whether according to the size, whether tumor, whether there is a risk of death or not, using a linear regression, what the linear regression model tries to do is it tries to fit the let me do it tries to fit the equation this fashion, because it cannot fit everything. So it tries to fit in this fashion, or maybe these 2 points, or these 2 points, or these 2 points, but there is no accuracy here. We can't say, how can we say, like if we consider this point and say beyond this point, maybe say it is there is a high risk of tumor, but we can't just generalize using the linear regression, because it's just covering these 2 points, key points, and this is just covering 2 key points. So there is another algorithm very much similar to linear regression. We call it as a logistic regression, where we fit the data, but there is a generally in linear regression we are just fitting the linear data, but in logistic regression we'll fit the data something. So generally, if you want to fit this data, how can you do fitting? So we need to do this fashion. So this is what we call as sigmoid function. So generally, if any value going beyond this can be called a sigmoid, and going like what I mean is, if tumor size is greater next to these points, any size greater than this point would refer to as a high risk of death, and beyond this point would refer to as low risk of death. So, but this does not give the continuous approach. This is a discrete approach. So to make it continuous, we are just reconstructing the sigmoid function in this manner. So this is a continuous function, and it predicts like it says the probability. So what the say this is the function of a logistic regression. So this function returns as probability, maybe high risk. What I mean for y equals to 1 is high risk of death, and or probability of y equals to 0. So when we speak about probability, it would be in something beyond the range of 0 to 1. Say it would say 0.666. So it means that 66% there is a chance that there is a high risk of death, and 33% there is a chance of risk that there will be no death. So this logistic regression, how you can frame, is very much similar to the linear regression. Generally, you have data here and here. You just try to fit the data, fit the curve, and finally the model thinks this is the correct correct curve fitting, and says this is the final model, and it does the prediction. But we have a concern over here. Generally, how a sigmoid function is defined mathematically is, if f of x is a sigmoid function, it is defined as 1 by 1 plus e power minus x. But generally, we are not giving x. We are having some hypothesis. Generally, our x is can be referred as theta 0 plus theta 1 onto x. So we need to substitute this whole equation to this e power minus x. So imagine if you are having a cost function. So generally, when you so this is the function, like e power minus theta 0 plus theta 1 into x. So when you draw a graph for this, you would end up getting what I mean is cost function. Cost function, when you draw a graph. So when you run a gradient descent algorithm and ask it to find the minimum point here, it would start it from here and say, it would start here and come here, and it would say this is the minimum point, because there is no correct approach, because when it goes beyond this point, the loss is increasing, and if you go left side, it says loss is increasing, and it realizes it thinks like that this is the minimum point, but it is not true, because we can't say, because this gradient descent algorithm fails when we have curve like this. This is a, we can call, mathematically or technically we call this as a non-convex function. So we can't generalize a different algorithm for this type of curves, because it is salient. Like this is the minimum point, this is the minimum point, and this is a minimum point. To approach it here, it does not converge until unless you have the initialization variables between this range to this range. That is really impractical. To make it practical, we need to convert this complete graph to a convex function. So, so generally, when we are going for a classification problem, we just need to have a cost function as a convex problem. So, what I mean is, if we have a something this function, we are converting this to a normal convex function. We'll see how can we do this. So, generally, how we do this. So, y cap is 1 plus 1 plus e power minus theta 0 plus theta 1 into x. So when we have a cost function, if we have something with y cap as this one, we get non-convex graph. To make it to make it convex function, we have some maximum likelihood algorithm. What it specifies j theta. We have two different approaches: minus log of y cap and minus log of 1 minus y cap. So this is for y equals to, if y equals to 1 and y equals to 0. So why are we having two different configurations? Is because when we put, if y is equals to 1 and my model also predicts y cap is 1, so log of 1 is 0, says you have no cost. I mean, like there is no loss. But if y is 1 but my model predicts as 0, the loss is infinity. Log 0 is infinity. So your j theta, I mean, like your loss is high. Your model has to train a bit. You can train the model better. And similarly, you can consider this thing when y is equals to 0, and if your y cap is 0, it is log 1, that is 0. It means yes, loss is 0. If we have y equals to 1 over here, it says log 0, that is infinity. So this is the problem. So we can overcome so generally we use this maximum likelihood algorithm. We can just frame it like minus y log of y cap, 1 minus y log of 1 minus y cap. So when y is equals to 0, this would goes to 0, and only this function is going to work. And if y is equals to 1, this is going to 0, and only this is going to work for us and train our model. And this is how we train the model, and the approach is very similar. We just randomly initialize theta 0 and theta 1 and iteratively run over the gradient descent algorithm, and we have a curve, and it converges to this point and says this is the optimum value. So let's see how we can do it with use of MATLAB. Before to that, I want to show you what kind of data I'm using. So this is wine classification. Generally, these are the components present in wine dataset. Like a wine contains alcohol, malic acid, ash, alkalinity, magnesium, and total phenol, and flavonoids and non-flavonoids, some other components as well. So according to these components, I want to characterize wine type. So we will having a wine characterization 1, 2, 3. So what does this 1, 2, 3 say? Say 1 is a low alcohol level wine, and 2 is medium level alcohol wine, and 3 is a high level alcohol wine. So we just need to find, according to this data, we just need to find what type of wine it is, either low level, medium level, or high level. We'll do it using MATLAB algorithm. So I'm closing this regression learner. We have the classification learner as well in machine learning and deep learning toolkit. Okay, right to this I need to load the data. So load. Excel sheet. So Excel, let's read. It is very much similar to what we have done previously. We'll load the data first and we'll say what are the X components. Here, what I mean X components are 13 different features, and the response is only one feature, that is 1, 2, 3. Either one is low alcohol, medium level alcohol, or high level alcohol. Then I'll hold out validation for say 20%, and I'll start session. So this is our scatter plot, and what it says is we have the legend as well here. The blue refers to low level alcohol, and this orange refers to here. This you can have a different legend for according to you, and I will train all parameters, all, and put train. So we have a different algorithms like logistic regression and linear discriminant analysis, quadratic discriminant analysis, Naive Bayes, support vector missions, and k-nearest neighbors. So I recommend you to go see what it does, what each algorithm performs. So you can have the accuracies over right here. So this is the model has done perfectly like 100% accuracy. So why do we get 100% accuracy is overfitting? We have the data so robust that it is linearly separatable or some kind of thing. So we'll just use this linear discriminant analysis and export this model. Before to that, okay. So generally we don't have something like a linear regression where we have a straight line saying the graph. We'll be having a confusion matrix. What confusion matrix says is true class and predicted class. Say if predicted class is 1 and true class is 11. So 1 comma 1, there is 11 instances where the model failed to do. You can just go here, true positive rates and false positive rates, and you can export the model like anyway, and you can get some ROC curve as well. Those are generally required when you have been into the field of data science. You generally can explore all these toolboxes without coding, and you can have the PCA as well. What the PCA refers to is principal component analysis. Like I have say I have 20,000 features and I want my model to train, but in those 20,000 features, there are some unnecessary features. You can just remove them using the PCA. Say there is some algorithm PCA. We can have some variance percentage. 95 is the optimum thing we can do, and you can just explore it. Let me. Okay, we'll just explore this. Export this model. I'll say again model. Okay, we have model. Dot. Okay. We need X, but I don't know what X it is because there are multiple features. I will just copy the first one and put it in an array. I'll just check it. So answer is 1. So it predicted accurately. So similarly, we'll see some 3 third category. So you can see like code get ready. So my model is doing perfectly all right. And you can save this model using some functions, and you can export and you can go for deployment as well. So this is all about classification. I'll just walk you through. So logistic regression is one of the most popular machine learning algorithms for binary classification, because not only binary classification, logistic regression is only for binary classification, but you can have a nested binary classification. You can do say 1, 2, 3. You can combine 2 and 3 as one classification and 1 as one classification. You can do binary classification in these two classes and consider this second classified algorithm, and you can do further binary classification. So logistic regression is not restricted to binary classification. You can do multiple classifications as well. So this is a dataset for tumor prediction, and this is a part of dataset. So this is the sigmoid function, how it looks like. This is a original sigmoid function, but we don't curate the negative data points. So we'll have the sigmoid function in this fashion, shifted version of sigmoid function. So this is a cost function which I refer, minus log of y cap minus log of 1 minus y cap, and complete cost function can be written as minus y log of y cap minus 1 minus y into log of 1 minus y cap. So this is a gradient descent algorithm. So what is the practical use of classifier? Generally we use emails. There are multiple emails receiving and sending. There will be a multiple spam emails in what we receive, but unknowingly, without our consent, Gmail pushes these emails to the spam folder. It does using this classification algorithm. It just analyzes the data in this all emails and says, oh, this is a spam email, so this is not a spam email. And this is an advantage for every user of Gmail, because we can't read all the spam emails. So this is the MATLAB tools for regression. This is the toolbox which I showed, and this is for classification, and this is a classification tool. So that's all. Actually, this is completely about the data science, introductory data science. I